Welcome to the Seriously Social podcast with your host, Simone Douglas. This episode, our guest is Bel Ryan from Ignite Art Therapies. She and Simone chat about how to put your health first, about business goals that go beyond the dollar, and the continuing stigma surrounding mental health.
Okay, so today I'm joined on the red chairs by Bel Ryan from Ignite Art Therapies for your episode of today's Seriously Social podcast. So Bel, maybe just give us the Cliff Notes version of who you are, what you're about, and how you ended up on the red chairs today.
So I'm an art therapist, so I work with people on some of their big life issues or the goals and things that they want to establish in life. So it's like counselling, but we use art as the tool to be able to verbalise things. So it's really hard to describe some experiences, or you might be a bit lost and don't really know what's happening. So I help people to navigate their life, have a look at what's happening for them and what they need to do with that.
Yeah, cool. What are some of the different modalities that you use in art therapy?
It's such a variety, and it really depends on what's happening for the person as to what we use. So we might use clay or painting or drawing, or it's really the symbolic metaphor that comes out through the art. That's the important part. So not art to look good, art to express.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. I think all art should be to express, but that might be something to do with the quality of my artwork. Do you find that art therapy has a place in a corporate environment or in a team environment when you're trying to uncover something or excavate something for the team?
Yeah, definitely. So I go into organisations and do wellness workshops as well as team building processes.
Yeah.
So it really is about people having a hands-on experience and reflecting on what's happening for them, but also how does that work with the team and everything that's happening there as well. So I love going into organisations and really helping people to have a different way to find new perspectives and looking at what do I do with all of this and how am I?
Yeah.
And how am I really?
Yeah.
And where do we go with this?
Do you think that we're getting to a point where there are more robust conversations in the business world or the employment environment around, mental health in general and, issues that are facing people? Or is it still completely stigmatised and, people are shut behind?
I'd like to think that we've come a long way, but I know that it's something that we still have got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
So there is, and I think as business owners, people are recognising that if you look after your staff, it's a happier culture, there's more productivity, people want to be there.
Absolutely.
But there's so many barriers that can get in the way, and that's not just what happens at work, it's what's happening in life as well. And one thing that I'm really passionate about is for people to recognise that life does happen, and that's not always the sunshine and rainbows and happiness. Like we're trying to strive for this thing called happiness, but I don't know whether we actually ever get there.
Yeah.
Well, definitely not 24/7.
God, no, yeah.
And the thing is that we need to balance that out with the whole aspect of the things that may not be going so well, the things that we're feeling, our behaviours that might not always be the way that we want to behave. What's behind that? And what do we do with that?
Well, and I think too, it's about, certainly as an employer and having, lots of very different teams, it's the conversation that I have with them is, I know that you didn't wake up today and go, I'm going to come to work and do a shit job.
Yeah.
And I'm going to mess up and I'm not going to follow through on something, or I'm going to be rude to the other member of the team. Generally speaking, if you know that those are ab reactions or unnormal, the first question that I like to ask is, are you okay?
Yeah.
You don't seem yourself, or you seem like you're under stress, or you're struggling, and I'm a bit loopy. So, I might go and wire them up to some kind of a meditation app or something like that helps them calm down while they're at work. But I think having, as the business owner, normalising the fact that actually you're allowed to not be okay. You're allowed to have a bad day. You can't live there, but you can have a bad day.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you're talking about is actually noticing, because there are signs, and so often people are so afraid to have that conversation and to recognise it. But the thing is, if we do it early, it means that people are actually able to work through it. Doing a bit more of that preventative stuff, and that awareness and acknowledgement of what is actually happening, and then what do we do with that?
Yeah, for sure.
So something like meditation, or even I just feel under the pump at home and I need a day off, or all of those sorts of things are really, really important for people's well-being.
Yeah. Do you think that we're going to get to a point where the old school business owner or manager, is a thing of the past in terms of, we've seen with COVID, for example, that when people are sick now, it's like, come to work. Like, you've got the sniffles, you stay home. Whereas, back in the day when I was in hospitality, I would come into work practically dying, with razor blades in your throat and God knows what else. And so we're seeing that shift away from that. And it's, sometimes a challenge for the staff because you're like, no, I'd rather pay you to go home.
Yes.
Just go home.
Yeah.
But, that thing about you're more than just a number. Are we going to get to a point where the bulk of business owners sit on this side here where you're human beings first, and then by treating people like human beings we're more successful, as opposed to, I think we still have a large segment of the current model which is you're a number and a productive output and your job is to make me money. I really hope that we're making that shift, and I know people like you who are making an effort and really having that awareness. But I think it really is about trying to shift that paradigm of we have to be productive. Yeah.
Because the irony is, if you look after your staff and you have a great culture and people are being acknowledged and looked after, then they're going to be more productive as a consequence. So rather than feeling this pressure to, I do some supervision with organisations, and something that I quite often hear from the employees is that we feel like we have billable hours, that the pressure is, have I billed my hours? Have I made enough money for the organisation? Where if we shift that to, am I doing a good job? Am I, feeling passionate about what I do? Then the billable hours will look after themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's trying to sort of find that balance, because obviously as a business owner, money, you still need to pay the bills and have everything flow.
Yeah.
But I think the recognition that people's well-being is important in that is really shifting.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think one of the things that I've had, so Patrick Lencioni is one of my favourite business authors. And so he talks about the 5 dysfunctions of the team. And one of the dysfunctions is not having a common goal. Like, it's right up the top. But, most businesses, their common goal is, I'd like to turn over $1.5 million, or control your labour percentage to this, or, this, that, the other. The common goals in all of my businesses are the story of how we engage with the client. So, like when I look at the pub, and we just did this workshop on Monday with the team, I'm like, so who are we really? And what is our common goal? Our common goal is, here at the Duke of Brunswick, the outside world doesn't matter here. So it doesn't matter whether you're a staff member or a customer. The minute that you walk through those doors, all of the judgments, all of the things about whether or not, you're good enough, okay, acceptable, a pain in the ass, whatever it might be, they all have to disappear. And that's the environment that we try to create. And I said to the guys, that's a goal we can all health check ourselves against. We all can contribute to. And if every single one of us is making sure that stepping into this venue is like stepping into your lounge room, only better, then the money thing just will happen. And it does. The money thing just happens.
And I think it comes down to that human connection.
Yeah.
A pub, for instance, is such a community.
Yeah.
And that important thing of people feeling part of something and connecting. It's not just about coming for a meal.
No.
It's so much more than that.
Yeah.
It's the feel and the way you're treated and everything that happens with that. And to not have judgment, it's a bit like a therapy session, really, isn't it? That thing of, I feel safe here.
Yeah.
And part of something is really important for people, and that happens in workplaces. It happens in home situations. It works so across every part of life.
Yeah, and I think it's, having had my own counselling practice for a while, the biggest challenge I found for most of my clients, and even for myself as I continue to grow up, I say I'm still not grown up, but I'm still working out my stuff, is, once you get to a point that fundamentally who you are as a person is okay, and you actually know that and believe it, I think that's the experience that you try to create for your team in making the most for things. So what would you say to someone that's like listening to us, you know, talk about all of these wonderful environments and things that are happening, and they go, my workplace is shit and my life is difficult. You know, how do they help themselves to a degree? Because they can really only control their world and their reality. What would you suggest to them?
I think one of the things that's really important is self-awareness. To go, okay, I'm in this situation where I might be reacting to things. I'm not liking life. My relationship isn't feeling fulfilling. Whatever is happening in life is to actually go, what's happening for me in this? Because you're right, you can't always change other people's behaviour. And, you know, there's the cliche of you can only change how you behave in response. But the important thing, I think, is for people to recognise that all of the things that have happened in our life, or the programming or the messages we've taken on, really play out in our behaviour and our reactions. And I think it's really important, rather than just going, oh, don't worry about that, no, I should think positive and it should be all great, is to actually go, I need to work through this and understand it. So then next time I have a boss who likes to tell me what to do and I react to that, when I understand where that comes from for myself, I can then react in a different way. It's not just as simple as flicking a switch and going, I'm not going to react.
That'd be nice.
We're human. And we project everywhere. You know, our behaviour is a response to something that we believe about ourselves or the world. And one of the things that's really tricky in our society at the moment is we have this perfectionism sort of thing going on, which can be really detrimental to people because they feel less than because life isn't perfect. But our life isn't the highlight reel. Like, life is life. And so I think one of the things that I can't stress enough is to go and see somebody.
Absolutely.
Obviously an art therapist would be you know, the bias, but that thing of going, not allowing it to get to a point where you crash and burn. A lot of people come to me when it's in dire straits and, you know, relationships about to break down. They are completely burnt out and have no choice but to stop. So wouldn't it be great if when the signs start coming, it's just to go, okay, I'm just going to go and see Bel or somebody else and have a tune-up, you know.
Absolutely. And I think part of that is that not enough of us that have done work and had therapy talk about it. Because often people go to me, oh, you know, you're so amazing and nothing phases you. You know, the world can be blowing up around you and you just kind of like go, oh, well, what's next? I'm like, that's what 5 years of intensive therapy does. And they're like, what do you mean 5 years? And I'm like, well, yes, I saw someone every week for 5 years to process all of my crap.
And it doesn't mean that it's all processed either.
No.
Like, it's an ongoing process.
Yes.
There's nothing like life throwing things at you to go, okay, I think I might need to go back.
Well, and like you said, but then you get to a point where you've got a really good toolkit and then you can go for a semi-regular tune-up. So maybe once every 3 months I'll go, you know what, you know, this month I'm going to go and investigate what art therapy has to offer me because I haven't tried that before. Or this month I'm going to go and, you know, do something with someone that does acceptance and commitment therapy because I haven't looked at that. There are so many different modalities out there, but I think the first thing that I had to commit to was my life's not working for me. Like, that's what happened, you know, like forever ago when I started this journey of, you know, 5 years of work. It's not working for me. I'm unhappy. I'm angry all the time, you know, or sad or distraught or, you know, like all of those peaks and troughs that people go through. Surely there's a better way. And having someone to talk to that wasn't part of my family was really, really good.
And that's what's really important about it. And I hear lots of people talk about, I've just got my friends who I can talk about. They still have a bit of a bias and want to protect you, where there's nothing like sitting in a neutral space where you can actually work it out and take the mask off fully. You know, you would be amazed at the people who come into my rooms who seemingly have it all together. You look at their life and you think that's the dream, you know, down to the white picket fence. But they're lost and not happy because they haven't processed all of the stuff that they need to process, or a big life event has happened, or things change. Like, we have so many transitions in life that are really important to process and navigate.
And when you look, that's a really nice spot to end on, I think, because if you look at the current business environment with COVID-19, so many shutdowns, so many businesses got sent, close to the wall or sent to the wall. And by proxy then all of their staff members, so that trickle-down effect, everyone's under an immense amount of stress, some people navigating it better than others. That's a great example of, you might have had it all together yesterday, and today someone else pulled the rug out from under your feet and you don't know where you're going to land.
And completely out of your control.
Yeah.
Like, nobody chose this.
No.
And I don't know whether anyone would, but one of the great things that has come from it has been a real perspective on what do I want?
Yeah.
How does this work? And that reset, but also it's been a communal experience. Like, everyone's been affected by this. And I remember when we first had the lockdowns.
Yeah.
That shared experience of we're walking down the street and we have to make sure we're apart.
Yeah.
Or there was that sense of community because everyone was in it.
Yeah,
together.
exactly.
I know that's a bit different now, but...
No, but I think too, it's still that thing of, as a business owner too, talking to other business owners, it really crystallised for us that we don't often communicate what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because our job is like, we have a successful business, this is where we're going, isn't this amazing?
Yeah.
So you literally, and in South Australia, small business is the biggest employer. So you think of, all of those poor business owners. Yes, the staff went through a horrible period as well, but those business owners had to stand down, 20 staff, 10
and the
staff.
trauma of that.
Yeah, exactly. And those people are like their family.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think it's that thing of looking after us, and the way that we do that is not only to connect with each other, but to have a space where you can explore what's happening for you. Yeah. And it's actually okay not to be okay. And I know Are You OK Day and Mental Health Week are coming up, but it is that real sense of, if you're not feeling like you would like to feel, what do you do with that? Exactly. And I think the answer is to go and see someone. There's no shame in that. No. And in actual fact, unless you deal with it, it's going to keep coming back.
Yeah,
and it comes out in other behaviours. So
I think
just
it's
getting help.
Yeah, taking that it's okay to not be okay to that next level, and going, it's okay to go and speak to a professional that's qualified to help you unpack what's happening for you. Yeah. In the absence of anybody else's agenda, and that's really what therapy is about.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the things that I get a little bit upset and frustrated with is people might go and see one person and they didn't gel.
Oh yeah.
And that sense of, I'm not cut out for therapy, it's not going to work and all that. It's a bit like putting clothes on. Some will fit and some won't. I know I'm not for everybody, but there's other people who I am for, and it's really important to feel safe in that environment and connected to whoever's holding the space with you.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one of my messages is, if you've had a bad experience, don't let that hold you back from seeking the right person.
Yeah. That would make sense, because my first experience was awful.
Yeah, me too.
I met this lovely therapist who shall remain nameless, who got me to do anger work in the first session. Wow. And I was pretty much homicidal at that point. Yeah. So it's about, take some recommendations, but then go find, persevere, and like you said, eventually you'll find the right person that can help you unpack what you need to unpack.
Yeah, and there's so many modalities, as you say, and art therapy is just one of them that works in lots of different ways.
And then my other piece of advice would be, when it gets really uncomfortable, that's when you need to keep going. Yeah. So you've started ripping off the Band-Aid. Don't stop because it's uncomfortable. Yeah. I was saying to someone, I was really lucky. One of the people that I worked with, I had that kind of, understanding relationship with, that if I missed 2 appointments, they would ring me and offer to come do the chicken dance. And so, it was one of those things, sometimes when I tell people, they're like, oh, therapists can't say that. I'm like, no, I gave him permission to hold me accountable because I knew I was going to run away on a regular basis. Yeah. And so that was our code word. Yeah. And I'd be like, yes, I'll be there next week to uncover the things.
The uncomfortable should be uncomfortable sometimes. Some of the things that people are dealing with
are hard.
It's actually a totally normal response to what you're processing and what you're going through as well. But it's interesting to have the right gel and to process it and know that sometimes it's going to be hard. Yeah. But it's worth it.
Absolutely worth it. I wouldn't have ended up where I am if I hadn't done it.
Yeah. So. Or I remember, one therapist that I had used to congratulate me every time I would come with something that was really like, I think I'm in the dark depths of my soul and all that. And they're just like, congratulations. And now that I look at it, I think, that takes guts and courage to do
absolutely.
that. But yeah, let's celebrate working through stuff rather than avoiding it and making it something that's shameful.
Cool. On that note, Bel, thanks very much for joining me on the red chairs.
Thank you.
If you want to learn more about Bel, you can find her by Googling Ignite Art Therapies, or Marie or someone will put all the links where they need to go.
Thank you for listening to the Seriously Social podcast. See our website for more details at www.socialmedia.aok.com.au/podcast. Check the show notes for credits, music used in the program, and more details about our guests.